So, if I'm reading it, I'm in Texas.
For action-packed Hogan's Alley and
for Nintendo. Who are the Mario Brothers?
I don't know.
Excito Bike Tojo. Oh, you're playing with power.
It's the video game years, and prepare for 1985. The systems, the culture, the games. King Arthur battles the undead.
He's just running around in his boxer shorts, which is pretty hilarious.
Nintendo releases an entertainment system.
They didn't market it as a video game console. They marketed it as something entirely different.
And the Vic Viper shoots up arcades.
Shoot the cord.
Plus a global thief on the loose, and Mario goes super. So strap on your jetpack and don't shoot the food. Get ready for 1985.
So Commando was released by Capcom in the arcades?
Commando was originally released in Japan as Senjou no Okami, Wolf of the Battlefield.
So you played the character Super Joe. Essentially, at the beginning of the game, you got dropped off in the jungle by a helicopter, and now you got to battle your way through enemies single-handedly to make it to the end.
You have a machine gun, you can shoot in all directions, and you have grenades.
Commando is relentless because everybody comes and they kill you before you even have a chance to react. There's too many guys to kill.
You can rescue hostages along the way. You can throw grenades into bunkers.
It had a fantastic port on the Commodore 64, which had some of the most memorable Commodore 64 music ever.
Commando is important because it did kind of create a genre with its development. The over-the-top run-and-gun shooter, it was really kind of the first to popularize the gameplay, and you're going to see a lot more of these types of games come out.
Ultima 4 Quest of the Avatar is a sequel to Ultima 3.
Very good. Do we have anything more to add to that? No?
So Ultima 3 kind of set the standard of what it was kind of the birth of the modern role-playing video game.
Lord British, Richard Garriott, is back with Ultima 4 Quest of the Avatar.
Instead of grinding constantly through dungeons, there is no real overall evil that you have to fight in Ultima 4. The goal of it is to become the Avatar.
If you do good deeds in the game, you do well to improve your character. If you do bad stuff in the game, it takes away your virtues. It's a really interesting game mechanic, actually.
Like, if you're actually too violent, or if you kill certain characters, you can't get certain virtues, or it becomes that much harder to get it. So playing it like a traditional RPG would actually make it harder.
The game was basically Richard Garriott's response to hate mail from parents saying that his past games had been immoral.
It must have been fairly frustrating for people who had no idea what they were getting into when they started to play it.
Among the hate mail Richard Garriott had received, there was some from an organization called BAD, Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons. I told you it was the game of the devil.
It was a much more expansive, bigger world than in Ultima 3, but it also tweaked certain things. You know, there was a system where you answered questions early on, and that, set your stats and what kind of person you were going to be.
Games that are quietly inspiring the Japanese companies making cutesy shooters and other things to make the games that will truly define a generation of RPG players.
I've read that it's one of Richard Garriott's favorite games, and hey, you can't trust the guy who made the damn thing, what are you going to do?
Data East put out Ring King.
The thing that always jumped out at me about Ring King is the kind of comic-y nature.
Sort of continues on with that idea of having kind of all these comical boxers in the game.
You can actually go around the ring, forward and backwards, and you actually can rotate around your opponent.
The big feature of the game was the goofy special attacks that you could initiate from a specific distance and with specific timing, and it could actually result in an instant KO.
Not like a simulator or anything like that. It's just a fun game where you beat the crap out of someone.
It's kind of actually a fast-punching game. Like, you can really, go at it with the characters. And I always liked that game, especially on the NES. It was actually really fun.
Fun decimation of your foe.
Will you be the one to witness the birth of the incredible Nintendo Entertainment
tackle even the toughest challenge when you be the first to raise the incredibly accurate Zapper and play games like Duck Hunt or action-packed Hogan's Alley and high-flying Kung Fu, each sold separately. Will you be the one to experience the Nintendo Entertainment System? Comes with Rob, Zapper, Control Deck, 2 controllers, Gyromite, and Duck Hunt.
The Nintendo Entertainment
These guys talk a lot about I never heard of it.
So the Famicom, which is the Japanese version of the NES, came out in 1983. It sold great in Japan because Japan did not have the same crash that we did.
So Nintendo thought, hey, I want to release this in America. The only problem was the video game crash of 83, 84 knocked out the home console video game market almost entirely.
You had a whole lot of people who got very badly burned, buyers from retail stores, and they didn't want to take a chance on video games. And Nintendo really had to roll the dice. Like, they had to actually, they test marketed it in New York, and they had to go to these guys and say, we will assume all the risk.
Nintendo had to basically say, whatever you don't sell stores, we'll buy back.
When we launched in New York area in late fall of '85, it was really fun. A ton of work because we were importing all of this new product, which we had to distribute all over New York and New Jersey area.
They would go around to department stores, to malls, to FAO Schwartz stores, and they would personally, these employees, set up these displays and demonstrations and actively try to demonstrate and sell the system to people just walking by. Here, try this game console out. Try this system.
Originally, Nintendo of America wanted to do a smaller market, but the Japan had at the time said, no, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it in freaking New York City, one of the biggest markets in the United States.
So in trying to sell it to Americans, they had to think of a new way to market it in the sense that, hey consumers, this is not a video game, this is something different.
Test marketing the NES was a big task, and the reason being is there was such disparate views on video games. I mean, the kids always loved video games.
At the time, video games were bad words. You did not want to be affiliated with anything to do with video games. So Nintendo had to market themselves carefully so they weren't thrown in with that bunch. So they didn't call it a video game, they called it a Nintendo Entertainment System.
It's much more than just a video game console. Look, it's got a robot.
Rob was used to market the NES as something more sophisticated than just a video game. It's like a toy, and it's like a robot, and it's from the future.
So Nintendo said, look guys, this isn't a video game system. It's a toy. It's got a gun. It's got robots. This is a toy, guys. This is awesome. And as silly as that sounds, it worked.
As cool as Rob looked, it only supported 2 games, Gyromite and Stack Up.
So you're Professor Hector in Gyromite, and you have lots of dynamite that's going to go off in a lot of time. That's good for kids. And you have to get this dynamite beforehand. Little lizard guys named snakes that come after you and try to kill you.
And you had these platforms that would go on each side, these little attachments. So there would be a gyro spinner, and then the gyro, and it would sit on top of these things that would activate the buttons, which would open gates in Gyromite.
Really ingenious and cool because it helped market Nintendo as an entertainment system and a toy versus a video game. But the problem was, setting up to use this guy was not easy at all.
I always enjoyed playing it just with the controllers because it's a lot faster. Like, I would have the 2 controllers in my hand, because if you have to wait for Rob, Rob's like, poor guy. He was an amusing novelty that I got the system on the store shelves, but as soon as people got tastes of games that didn't require the tedious setup of a robotic operating buddy, he was relegated to closets where he gathered dust.
But luckily we had this arsenal of 16 games, of which probably 10 or more of them were really good games. And then on top of that, we had Rob the Robot and the Zapper, the light gun, and those 2 things made it seem like the technology was really different and new. So it was actually a slam dunk to sell it.
This is a Zapper. Light gun came with the NES, and you play Duck Hunt with this. And Duck Hunt, while coming off as a simple tech demo, is a lot of fun.
A pretty fascinating piece of technology when you think about it. It basically times out these flashes on the screen.
And if you miss them, there is the one thing that everyone remembers about Duck Hunt, which is the dog.
That dog. That smug little look on his face when those ducks fly away and he pops up and he laughs at you.
The dog is cruel, and he mocks you, and you cannot have your revenge on the dog. You just have to endure.
Duck Hunt had 3 modes, 1 duck, 2 ducks, and clay pigeons, which I actually thought were clouds when I was a kid.
Now you can also control the duck using the second control.
Correct. Yeah, and that was like the first kind of like cooperative competitive gaming, because like you're both playing together, but like one's trying to survive and the other one's shooting at him. But the duck would always lose because you press the gun against the screen and just fire.
Nintendo Zapper? Pew, pew, pew. Who wouldn't want to play that?
This would become the base sort of model for every video game controller afterwards. They all would incorporate at least 2 buttons, a start button, and a control pad. Everyone afterwards.
I mean, just the way they infiltrated the culture so soon afterwards was that you weren't playing video games, you were playing Nintendo. It was like Kleenex or Q-tips. You know, the brand was the product.
The technology had progressed enough that the characters were more decipherable as people or animals.
The graphic superiority of the system was like, nothing we had before. It was an 8-bit system. And there were 8-bit systems before, but nothing looked like the Nintendo.
The games were marketed by actually how they looked and how they worked. The Nintendo was very careful in doing this. If you go back to the Atari era, to the Intellivision era, you look at the box art of all these games, it doesn't show what the actual game is. It shows these painted, abstract drawings, and that's not what the game is.
Nintendo came up with this brilliant idea. Let's make it so only cartridges made by Nintendo can be played in the machine.
The Atari kind of showed what could happen if they weren't really careful about how they controlled the system. So Nintendo had a strict product approval policy, and they would only allow a certain number of games per developer per year.
Once it was released nationwide in '86, you're about 3 years removed from the video game craze. So it's almost a new semi-generation of kids that maybe they never had an Atari. They were just too young for that, like I was. But now you see something called the NES, and all of a sudden, this is new again. All of a sudden, home console video games are now kickstarted again.
And Nintendo, in accomplishing the impossible, basically proved, and this is very important, that video games were not dead.
And all we did was just confirm what we thought, which is that the kids were going to continue to love them because they were great games, and the parents would see it as something radically new and be willing to maybe put it under the Christmas tree.
And now, it should have been a video game in 1985.
Oh, hello, I'm Eric, and here's the stuff from 1985 that should have been made into a video game, but was not. In movies, Rocky IV for the NES. Train in the harsh Russian wilderness to take on your rival Drago in this montage of minigames. Jump rope, but with careful timing. Do hanging sit-ups and try not to get a hernia. Lift a cart like an ox and climb a mountain. Now you're ready. Drago! The Breakfast Club for the NES. Sneak out of Saturday morning detention in this angsty stealth game, but don't get caught by the evil principal or he'll send you back to detention with your complaining classmates and their feelings. Shout by Tears for Fears for the NES. Kids, you can finally take all your pent-up energy and let it all out without getting yelled at by your parents in this game where you can just yell as loud as you want, but only in the game. Shut up. Back to the Future for the NES. In this zany take on Back to the Future, get this, you'd run through the streets throwing bowling balls at your enemies, which would be girls with hula hoops and guys walking back and forth with a pane of glass, inexplicably, and bees. For no reason, bees. That'd be so crazy, they would never do that. Or would they? And that's what should have been a video game in 1985. And I want to play them.
You want ads that drive results. That's why we built Roku Ads Manager, where performance meets efficiency. Our performance algorithms are designed for CTV. Get started for as little as $500. Sign up at ads.roku.com.
We really need to see your LDLC come down more to lower your risk of another heart attack. I was afraid we had to do more.
What? I already exercise, take my statin, eat kale.
I can tell you're trying, but there's a high chance you'll have another heart attack.
I don't want to go through that again. What else can we do?
Let's add Repatha.
Repatha plus a statin lowers LDLC by an average of 63%.
Sega Hang-On is dope.
It's one of the first, not the first, but one of the first superscalar games in Sega's library. The superscalar technology is technology that Sega used for a number of arcade games in the 80s that used sprite scaling from a distance to the foreground to create a very interesting illusion of speed and forward progression.
There's both the stand-up version of the game, where you just had to do little mic handlebars, but then there was the sit-down one, was almost like a full-size freaking motorcycle.
Yeah, you laid it out.
And it had the little monitor basically built into the freaking little bike.
I mean, it was a more interactive experience than just moving a joystick.
I played it on the Sega Master System at home, and it just wasn't as good. But it was pretty cool. I liked the music and the explosions when you did anything, because you blow up just like in real life.
Yeah, Yu Suzuki, one of the first of the games that he put out that had that really immersive element to it.
Definitely a great way for Sega to try out new things with this technology that they were working on, and better things would definitely come from it.
Re-experience the mind, unbounded. Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
The Amiga was a series of computers that were launched beginning in '85 by Commodore that they're just personal computers.
The package you got in the Amiga for the money was really great with the sound and its graphical capabilities, which means that it immediately became a very popular platform for video games.
It was a custom chipset made for it, and it produced some really high-quality home computer games. I mean, the difference between what the consoles could do and the computers could do was expanding.
The visual difference in quality between that and the other computer games, like the IBM systems at the time, or the Apple, II, it blew them away.
The word Amiga was chosen not just because it means girlfriend in Spanish, but also because it comes before Apple, if you're looking at a list of computer names. Sneaky.
There was no problem seeing an Apple II as a computer that could be engaged in business, but Commodore's computers always seemed to carve out a niche as gaming machines, which, like I said, makes them even more specific in their group, which just means there wasn't, at least in the US, not a ton of widespread usage.
Yeah, they kind of became a really popular de facto video game platform as well, especially in Europe.
The Amiga had a lot of great games on it, some of which were ports that were found on other systems like Rainbow Islands, New Zealand Story, Lemmings, but those games you could find anywhere, I suppose.
It sold millions and millions of units. It's very impressive for a burgeoning personal computer market that really only started to trickle in the 70s, but kind of exploded more in the 80s.
I was jealous of people that had an Amiga at the time.
Right.
I was. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego was an educational adventure game, really?
This is a great game. This is just one of those, you kind of know that you're learning in it, but you don't even care.
So what you would do is you were tasked to find one of Carmen Sandiego's henchmen who usually stole some sort of art or other object somewhere around the world, and you were given clues from people in different locations to tracking them down.
It really made you want to learn as a kid, It was one of those edutainment games.
Yeah, it was actually fun to be involved with it.
It was kind of like Where's Waldo, except using geography.
Of course, I was a kid and didn't know anything about the world, so Carmen Sandiego is really hard.
It changed up every time. Every time you played, it would kind of randomize what artifact got stolen, who stole it, where it was stolen, so that the game never really got old. As an educational game, it wasn't just doing math or numbers or history quizzes. You learned stuff about the locations, but the game always stayed intriguing.
So they would give you a clue like, oh, the criminal had this sort of flag on him at these colors. I wonder where he went next. So you as a kid had to figure out, oh, this country has, these colors in its flag, so I'm going to go there. So in a way, it was teaching you geography, things about culture, but you didn't really know that as a kid. It was more like, hey, I'm playing an adventure game. I'm getting away with playing a game in school. How's this happening?
This is one of those games that you would just, whenever you got your work done in the computer lab in elementary school in the 80s, you'd ask the teacher if you could have a little bit of downtime, and you go into the floppy disk container, open it up, and you hope that Carmen Sandiego wasn't taken, because you wanted to catch that crook and put him or her in the jail.
So kids, you too can begin to Play Carmen Sandiego today and learn all about geography. You too can learn about Yugoslavia and West Germany and the USSR.
Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego was really popular, hugely so. It was ported to many computers and even some consoles.
Do you remember the NES version came with a pocket encyclopedia?
I remember it coming in an oversized box.
Yeah, it's because a little pocket encyclopedia in it, so you could cheat, obviously.
Seriously, I know Carmen Sandiego was a video game, but you guys remember that awesome game show, right?
Where in the world is
Carmen Sandiego? It made 2 TV shows. There was the game show on PBS, and then there was the actual cartoon on Fox, I believe, in the 90s. Both of those were actually really good and got kids interested in learning while entertaining themselves. Some might call it edutainment.
One of a lot of good educational games that really worked, and they found the hook, and they started to come out a little bit more often on these computer platforms.
Super Mario Brothers.
That was the game that brought back video games in North America.
I'd say just about every gamer has played Super Mario Brothers. It's the grandfather of platforming games.
This was Nintendo's, welcome to the world. It's like, this is our killer app.
I mean, this was beyond anything that we had seen in a video game before this.
It made the Atari games look absolutely primitive. It was just this living, breathing cartoon world at the time.
A lot of the games before that were single-screen games, whereas in Super Mario Brothers, you had at point A, and you had to go to point B, and you had a goal to save the princess.
And Mario Brothers was cool because you started up, and then here's this blue screen, blue sky with Mario running back and forth. But then you realized that you could start running, and you didn't stop. You could just go and go and go.
In many ways, it is Shigeru Miyamoto's masterpiece. It's just, you can pick it up and you can play it.
I'm not sure what Miyamoto was thinking in crafting something so elaborate and so involved, but in creating Super Mario Brothers, he sort of made the template for what a video game should be.
Super Mario Brothers really was the first game that created a story and a world for you to go into.
We accept the game now at face value, but think about how weird it is. It stars a plumber who hits blocks and mushrooms come out, which he eats, and then he gets bigger, and then he fights like a turtle dragon. It's really weird.
Of course, you're trying to save Princess Toadstool from the evil Bowser in the Mushroom Kingdom. The game doesn't really explain how you get there, but the story somehow works that plumber Mario and his brother Luigi trying to fix some plumbing, get sucked down a pipe, and they get warped into the Mushroom Kingdom.
A very lengthy game if you went from start to finish. And most games were, fairly quick games at that time. You could beat them in a couple minutes.
Going through that game, dude, like freaking the 8th world.
The game's not hard.
When you're 7, it's hard.
So many people take for granted about this game today is what made it the ultimate video game playground when it came out. There was just so much to play with and toy with.
And it basically stated, okay, video games need to be long, they need to have secrets, they need to get people talking.
We're talking, some levels are underwater, some levels are at night, some are in the clouds, some are over a bridge, and some were actually in castle dungeons.
You get the name of that first castle, you got that weird mushroom guy standing there. Sorry, Mario, the princess is in our castle. Alright, jerk, show me where the next castle is.
By reusing assets, it makes a very colorful and inviting world. I mean, look closely. You got the clouds. They actually look like little trees in the background. They're just a different color.
The controls were so precise and really took advantage of the new control D-pad that Nintendo was trying to push out there, and it really showed it off.
And yeah, you went down pipes into the underground. You found beanstalks that took you up, and you felt like everything when you first saw it, you were the first to discover it, as if this is hidden.
The game actively encouraged exploration. It encouraged you to say, what does happen if I break this brick and jump up through the ceiling?
I remember the first time I got to the warp zone, I felt like I had found something I wasn't supposed to. I was breaking the game, getting to the warp zone. It's a secret. You're not supposed to go there.
How about in level 1, 2, you could hit the bricks, the top of the screen, and run on top of the screen, and you're running past all the information. They're running past your score and everything. Yeah. That's insane to see that.
I remember reading in Nintendo Power about the minus level where you got to jump on 1-2 and hit your head on the back of the block, go through the wall, and then go through the warp pipe, and you were in an endless underwater level called the Minus World.
Everybody remembers the theme song. Everybody knows the theme song to Mario. Even Grandma probably knows the theme song to Mario.
If I go do-do-do-do-do-do, or even knock, people know exactly what that is. That's how recognizable it is.
This game was a system seller.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the best system sellers in the history of video games.
To this day, Super Mario Brothers is still a beloved game and is still very playable.
Let's just leave it that it is ridiculously important, and there's a reason why Mario is still synonymous with video games.
And now the other arcade games of 1985.
Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and these are the other arcade games of 1985. Super Punch-Out! The second game in the Punch-Out series, featuring the same gameplay as its precursor, but giving us some brand new characters in Bear Hugger, Vodka Drunkinsky, later changed to Soda Popinsky, of course, and Super Macho Man. Oh yeah! Alpha Mission, a space shooting game from SNK, similar to Xevious, where you fly through space defending space stations with lasers for air attacks and missiles for ground attacks. Russian Attack, an action platformer where you were tasked with infiltrating an enemy camp to save some prisoners of war with just your knife. Yeah! Legend of Cage, an action game where you control a ninja named Cage, trying to save the princess.
He pushes them where she can get them by hand first.
And Yoshi. But not that Yoshi. So there you go, guys. There are the other arcade games of 1985. Hey, just because they may not be as popular as some of those others, doesn't mean they're not fun. Get yourself some quarters. Let's go play.
So Yu Suzuki continues with his classic arcade games this year with Space Harrier.
Fantasy Zone and Space Harrier actually take place in the same universe.
It's not what you think.
When the game starts, he says,
"Welcome to the Fantasy Zone."
I'm going to tell my wife that. She's going to be really impressed.
And Space Harrier control a gentleman who has a large flying bazooka, rocket pack sort of thing that he tucks under his arm, and you run through different levels in the Fantasy Zone and destroy a ton of crazy creatures as you fly around.
You know, the gameplay is so unique that it's one of those games you just have to pick up and play, and right away it's easy to catch on to, but it's so much fun. I love the pseudo 3D graphics.
They have a controller similar to these.
It's like, am I riding a rocket and shooting things, or am I flying an F-16?
In fact, it was originally going to be an airplane game, but they didn't have the graphical resources to do it, and it's actually easier for them to make a little guy running around and flying.
Space Harrier was one of the first arcade games with 16-bit graphics and used Sega Super Scaler technology, which basically allowed them to fake 3D.
Now, there's always lots of enemies on the screen at the same time. Lots of different moving parts. You never any slowdown.
It had some crazy awesome characters. Like, have you ever seen a Cyclops woolly mammoth? Now you have.
You get weird stone faces,
and there's like cat dragons.
I really like how stages 4, stage 9, and stage 14, they had the ceiling that come down, and they'd go like really, really fast, and of course I could totally dodge that, because I kicked ass in Space Harrier.
Well, yeah, you had the reflexes of
a 14-year-old like us, which I was.
While the game is very simplistic to play, it endures as a favorite simply because the graphic style and the way the game was designed is just so unique.
It had some of the most memorable arcade music ever.
It's very fast-paced. The melody is just fantastic.
Has a great beat to it.
It used a digitized voice, so after beating a boss, it would say stuff like, "You're doing great." Thanks.
Yeah, Sega began to differentiate themselves from other companies.
Space Harrier. You're not in space. You're not in space in Space Harrier.
I'm moved from Dallas to Los Angeles all by myself. The order of things I wanted to set up was internet, water, then power. I needed to take a shower, but like I really did need the internet for work and like to watch my shows. That's like kind of a crazy thing to admit in front of a camera. Pretend I didn't say that. I got to Spectrum. I was so relieved that I was getting the best bang for my buck. It was a huge weight taken off of my shoulders.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit
Japan has already lost over 1.8 million soldiers and committed more than 70% of its economy.
The main character was a bubble fish known as Bubbles,
Japanese
or in
occupation
Japan,
of key
Gurupi.
airfields in
Sounds like
Indochina.
Gurupi, I don't know, but it had arms and legs. How's that fish? That's not a fish.
Roosevelt is in a really tricky position. He really wants to stop this Japanese expansion throughout Asia, but he can't do anything about it militarily. So what does he do? He's got to use America's economic muscle.
The point of the game is to uncover
the
hidden
decisive
gold bars
move
to
of
form the
freezing
shape of
Japanese
something
assets in
like
the United
a
States,
mushroom
which
or
freezes
glass.
millions and millions of yen. That then turns into this outright all-encompassing oil embargo. Japan imports 90% of its oil from the US. And for
The
the
way you attack in the
Japanese,
game is by
that feels
sending
like
off a
castration.
sound wave that stuns
To
enemies,
further
and then you
demonstrate
just squish them
America's
in the wall.
resolve, US aid to China is doubled. The powerful Pacific Fleet
The
sails
game
out of
control
California
is crazy, and
Port
probably the most
Jakarta.
common complaint about the game. You're constantly running forward, and what you do is you stick your arm out and grab a peg, which will spin you indefinitely around the peg until you let go.
Not sure why it's called Clue Land though. I always thought it was like a mystery, like gumshoe.
Maybe it's because when you go over the diamonds, it's like they're giving you a clue about what the picture is.
Clue Clue is the romanization of the Japanese onomatopoeia kuru kuru, which means to go around and around. Makes sense if you think about it. Twinbee!
It was a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up, but it was kind of cute. You know, it had those cutesy characters, cartoony.
It was a cutesy shoot 'em up. A cute 'em up.
Twinbee features ships with arms that literally throw bombs and shoot other ships that are shaped like fruit. It's adorable.
Twinbee is really known for, besides being adorable and very colorful, is the bell juggling power-up system, which is love or hate, and I love it.
The power-ups in Twinbee are bells that the player can shoot to change their color and ability, and that was also used in Parodius.
In Twinbee, being vertical, it's a little bit easier to juggle the bells. As you shoot them out of clouds, they come out yellow. Those are worth bonus points, but if certain ones, if you shoot them more than once, they will change the color to give you the ability to make copies of yourself as you fly around for extra shots, shields.
You know, it plays upon those themes of childlike innocence and mixed with shooting, and it was popular here too.
Silent Service was a submarine simulator game released by Microprose and created by Sid Meier.
The point of the game was to take control of a United States submarine for various war patrols against Japanese shipping.
What makes Silent Service a success and why it did well was because it gave you a control room type atmosphere to kind of play the game from.
Because you had the keyboard, you know, you had the added level of control, more functions you could have in the game, which, you know, definitely fit simulators more so than any control pad could.
Yeah. You're using like almost every key on your keyboard, and you have to learn how to play this game to control the submarine in order to, you know, lay a course.
And you did the various tasks. You looked at Periscope, you messed with the controls, you know, trying to figure out where you are.
It won a bunch of awards and a bunch of accolades. And for hardcore sim-nuts, while it's probably not played a lot today, it's definitely remembered as being an important game in the genre.
So Capcom released Ghosts and Goblins in 1985.
In Ghosts and Goblins, the player controls a knight named Sir Arthur, as in King Arthur?
You're not King Arthur, but you're a knight, and you're hanging out with your girlfriend, you know, just having a picnic.
And you're just half naked, your armor sitting on the side, I don't know why.
The evil demon comes and snatches her up while you're in your underwear. You put on your armor and you go off to try to rescue her.
All I know about Ghosts and Goblins is I saw that intro screen with the map to the castle like a million times.
Do you like pain more than pleasure? You answered yes. I have a couple phone numbers for you and a video game that you're definitely going to want to try out.
Ghosts and Goblins is one of the hardest games ever made.
One of those games that kind of defines, like Nintendo hard. Although this came out in the arcade before it was on the NES. But shut up.
You're wearing a suit of armor. You get hit once, you lose the armor, and he's just running around in his boxer shorts, which is pretty hilarious.
And while that's awfully adorable, that leaves you vulnerable to one more shot.
It's so difficult because there are just enemies and obstacles everywhere.
You have to get the knife.
These things will constantly keep popping up, so there is no rest. There is patterns, but they're hard to predict because they rely on you moving consistently.
You guys gotta keep going. You gotta just grind through, but then the problem with that is you run into something that'll just attack you with a weird pattern, like from the air. You gotta run back and try to hit it with your lance or knife at that point.
I didn't even know there was a second level. I thought it was the end of the game once you got to the end. I didn't even get to the boss at the end of the first level.
If you can get to the end, spoilers, you're told that it's a trap, and you've got to go back and do it again. Are you kidding me?
It's bad enough playing this on the NES, where, you're gonna just tear out your hair, but imagine trying to beat it in the arcade with quarters. You might as well just cash out your 401k in order to do so.
And now, the gaming innovation of 1985.
Welcome to the gaming innovation of 1985. What new technology graced the world and changed the face of gaming forever? This year, a very little known game was released. Alright, Super Mario Brothers. What else could it possibly be? This game almost single-handedly brought back the video game industry to North America. It made the NES fly off shelves, becoming one of the most popular video game systems of all time. And Super Mario Bros. Itself was the best-selling video game of all time until it was dethroned in 2008 by Wii Sports. Regardless, this game's innovative mechanics and simple-to-grasp gameplay made North Americans realize that video games were here to stay. This has been Room for the Video Game Innovation of 1985. I'll see you next year, and remember, it's not just nostalgia, it's science. Sure. 1985, Atari throws down the gauntlet.
It was a top-down kind of dungeon crawler view, and it was basically a very big maze.
Gauntlet was one of the first multiplayer dungeon crawler games for the arcade that could be played with 4 unique characters simultaneously.
You had 4 character classes to choose from. You could be the warrior, the Valkyrie, the elf, and the magician. They all different attributes.
The control panel was wider than other standard uprights because, of course, it's got to fit 4 people. So if you like The Simpsons, if you like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, X-Men, those kinds of games, you've got Gauntlet to thank for that design.
Gauntlet was the first game that made me want to get a multi-tap. It was 4-player. That's cool. 4-player co-op too, which is amazing.
And since all the guys have different skills, it makes sense to have maybe, the Valkyrie with the magician or the elf with the warrior.
Right. The Valkyrie had the most defense, and she could protect the magician who had, the best projectiles.
And essentially you would just work your way through this top-down perspective of a maze inside of a dungeon that is just swarmed with hordes of enemies. I mean, there are just so many villains in this game. It's insane.
And you could, destroy their hive so they stop spawning. And the goal was to, get to the exit, get some keys, get some cash, and continue to the next level.
Your health went down when you were hit by an enemy, but it was also constantly going down, so you always had to be eating food and that kind of stuff to keep your energy up. It was like Master Higgins in Adventure Island.
You are going to die, it's just a matter of when.
The voice synthesis in that game was top-notch and so memorable.
If that isn't iconic, I don't know what is.
Elf, shot the food.
Blue Wizard shot the food.
I've not seen such bravery.
I can't even do a good digitized voice impersonation. I should be fired.
Large Tale did a couple of things that really changed up the structure of dungeon crawlers as we had seen them prior in games like Wizardry.
The game's notable for being, another one of those Dungeons and Dragons-esque kind of games, but with higher quality 3D graphics and sprites that, they're animated like portrait-looking sprites.
Bard's Tale is great because it gives you not one dungeon to traverse, which is what most dungeon crawlers give you, but it gives you multiple.
This game is old school, so you're gonna have to get a pencil and graph paper to make your own maps.
Yeah, as you're playing the game, you're going through, and you might have to solve riddles and things like that. Not much unlike Wizardry and Ultima. In fact, you could, on some versions of the game, import characters from those games, Wizardry and Ultima, and bring them in.
And it also gives you a town, like a fully fledged town that's not, completely driven by menus that you can explore and there's things to find.
The Bard's Tale is about a character who casts spells by singing one of 6 songs.
It's the game's namesake, and it's what really kind of sets it apart. When they introduced the Bard in Bard's Tale, it was very unique. The Bard had songs that he could sing, which were very much like magic spells. They usually affected the duration of the song, the duration of the battle.
You could be a bard, a hunter, a monk, a conjurer, but the game is called Bard's Tale. Be a bard.
It was an Electronic Arts release game, so it had that really cool album-looking cover, really nice artwork that was ported over to various systems, including the NES, actually, and that artwork came along with it.
Do you think the Bard has groupies?
I think the Bard was your groupie. I think that's how Bardism works. I think they sing songs about the hero.
Well, I don't like that.
Section Z is a horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up by Capcom that's a little odd because you're not in a ship, you're actually a person in a suit.
It's kind of weird because you're basically a little man flying.
The point of the game is to get from Section A to Section Z, so there's 26 levels.
What makes Section Z stand out a little bit at this time is not only are there horizontally scrolling stages, but there are vertically scrolling stages.
The goal of the game is to destroy a space station that's orbiting the Earth, which is actually a secret base for an empire known as the Balangol.
There's a button in Section Z that allows you to change your orientation from left to right, so you can shoot enemies as they come from behind you or from in front of you.
I don't recall a time having a horizontal shooter where you're just a dude floating.
So the constant changing of direction, plus the fact that the levels scroll in all the different directions, really give it a kind of a sense of being in something, exploring something and trying to stop it, as opposed to, just flying over a pretty colored background.
Excitebike! Exciting! It's Excitebike!
Well, let's face it, it's a simple game. You're just puttering along, and you don't want to overheat, and you gotta go by these other guys.
You're in a race against not only the clock, but obstacles and bikers. And it actually is exciting, like the name would lead you to believe.
I don't like Excitebike. I never got into it. I do not like it. I think it's overrated, and it's not fun.
Your bike would eventually overheat if you, held your turbo too long, so you had to, balance how much you're using the turbo versus the regular gas.
That is annoying, Like, I'm finally...
All you gotta do is go from B to A, just like this, look.
There's enough nuance in it, as you go over the hills, you lean forward or back, etc., etc.
You had to really be careful how you angled your bike when you were landing so that you would have optimum speed hitting the ground. If you were not careful, end over end, and you were screwed, basically.
I love when you get knocked off your bike every Excitebike. Then you slam on the button, you're like running down, get back to the bike.
If you landed on the rear tire, you would kind of do like a bounce thing, and it would slow you down a little, versus just going straight if you're in the lead, horizontal.
Not that it really mattered in the game, but I just love to do wheelies until I'd accidentally flip over and die.
Yeah, your racing can really take some spills in an Excitebike. That is an indestructible individual.
You're wearing a helmet, though.
Well, yeah, that's a good case for always wearing a helmet.
Building your own tracks was a blast. I wish you could have saved them.
Yeah. We created the most impossible thing. It was just jump, 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 like extreme peaks that you could never... It was impossible, but it was fun.
Kids are creative. This is why kids like Legos. Kids want to create things and then play with them. Excitebike, more than any other game that came out on the NES in its first years, was that creative outlet.
Excitebike is one of those classic games. It's one of those games, whenever someone says NES, it's one of the first 5 or 6 games you usually think of. Excitebike. The name alone is really iconic.
You want ads that drive results. That's
I
don't know why I thought that one was going to work. I'm just going to go pretend to be you and sign up for some credit cards or something. You're going to steal my identity? Okay, good luck with that, buddy. No one's ever going to believe that you and I are the same. Oh, I might be in some trouble
A
here.
family-friendly carnival sets the theme for this toy-filled table with the first solid-state million-point shot. Robot by Zaccaria. Take a ride on the Robot Bridge and destroy the pop-up bots in this psychedelic war between man and machine. Sorcerer by Williams. Taunts, thunder, and glowing eyes set the stage for this intense machine with a fast and high-scoring 2-ball multi-ball. And those are the popular pinball machines of 1985, because there's more to life than video games.
Everybody my age, or around my age, has fond memories of playing the Oregon Trail. I promise.
This game was developed by the Minnesota Educational Computing Consortium. I didn't make that name up. It's kind of awesome, actually.
The game was designed to teach kids about the realities of 19th century pioneer life on the Oregon Trail. This is fun.
You get your family together, get a wagon, in the old west, get some tongues. No, you're trying to get to the west. You're in the east. You're in the old east.
Yeah, you thought of everything from planning your route, planning what you needed to spend on the goods, yeah, how you had to ration that out, forging rivers in your wagon.
You can decide if you wanted to be a banker or a poor person, whatever you wanted to be. I want to be a poor person in my video game. Well, I mean, that was hard mode, I want to be the poor guy.
When I was playing the Oregon Trail, this is back to when there was just a black screen, and all like the sprites were just white blocks, and you can kind of like move around that way. So we didn't even have fancy graphics unless you got to river. Then it was blue. I remember how fun it was to do the hunting, the terrible hunting. Like, there would be, like, these crazy buffalo and stuff walking by, and you'd have that little pellet gun, and you'd be firing at them, trying to just kill all these animals as they walk by.
It was always fun, because that was definitely not educational, the hunting segment, but they threw it in there, and, God, I remember us going wild just for that. It's called the hunting segment.
Problem is, like, you only carry, like, 50 pounds of food at a time, but if you kill, like, a bear that's, like, 200 pounds, why would you put something in the game that I can kill and not use all the food stuff? That teaches children how to be wasteful.
What is it? I love the fact that you can die in parties, you get dysentery, you get Titanic, you get robbers.
You can die from measles, snake bite, typhoid, cholera, exhaustion. But nobody remembers that. What do you remember? Everyone say it with me now. Dysentery.
You have to die of dysentery. That's the thing that happens. You can break your arms.
Susie died of dysentery.
You just died of dysentery. Am I right? You'll never, it's like ingrained in your brains. You'll never forget. Joey died of dysentery.
Dysentery.
Everyone plays Oregon Trail the same way. You go hunting and you shoot way too much, and then you move on until someone dies of dysentery. I always remember, too, one of the things that was always fun to do is you would always name your characters after your classmates or your friends. Because it would always be hilarious when one of your friends had an unfortunate accident.
You just keep going and you see landmarks. A lot of your family's going to die. That's something that happens in Oregon Trail. Teaches kids about the temporary nature of life.
You can sell smallpox blankets to the natives.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
And that game continues to be released, and it's loved and loved, and it's it's incredible what like Carmen San Diego, they were able to make educational games interesting.
So around this time we start to see games that really are going to define future types of this genre. Radius by Konami is definitely one of those games that will shape what the horizontally scrolling shooter is going to be.
To me, Gradius was the horizontal shooter, and I compare all other horizontal shooters to Gradius.
In the game, you control the ship, the Vic Viper, and essentially you just had to blast through these areas that were just filled with enemy ships. And you can collect all these different power-ups so that you can multiply your shot power to blast more items on the screen at a time.
Trump that he's a pedophile or a racist. You can't name one statement he said or done that makes him a pedophile or a racist. And when you make claims against somebody, it smears their character.
Scrolling, from the side. Two, it gives you options.
There's a bar at the bottom, and as you collect generic power-ups, it sequentially lights up the power-up that you can cash in. You can hold on to them to get the bigger power-ups, or you can cash them right away for things like speed boosts and other such things.
You've got to be sure that you've got enough speed, but not too much. You get too much speed, and you're a danger to yourself.
The problem with this power-up system is that Grady suffers from the, if you die, it's really tough to continue progressing.
Yes.
Unlike other shooters where the power-up system is a bit more balanced, if you die and lose all your power-ups in Stage 3, getting yourself back into fighting Trim is incredibly difficult in a game like Gradius.
All of the boss fights were these larger ships that would have a blue core that would sort of hide and then show up during the battle.
The Gradius series is responsible for the phrase, shoot the core!
And essentially you had to find a way to blast through like a tunnel or an opening on the ship to blast that blue core when it was showing, while also avoiding all of the shot patterns coming from the ship.
I personally appreciated it as a kid. I think a lot of people did, which is why it created so many dang sequels and spin-offs and imitators, etc., etc.
By the way, I think it's actually Gradius.
I don't care, I have a shitty accent.
F-15 Strike Eagle is, you guessed it, an F-15 Strike Eagle combat simulator.
The goal of every mission is to drop bombs on one of two targets. One primary and one secondary that you can do for bonus objectives.
The game received high praise for being an excellent simulator on PC, but the NES version was pretty choppy.
They were the console ports, but the computer versions were vastly superior.
Microprose in the mid to late 80s was the largest publisher of computer military simulation. And F-15 Strike Eagle was one of the first and one of the best.
It starts to show video games don't have to be just about pew and blowing up of the crowd. It can be about truly engaging simulations. And Sid Meier's definitely one of those, founding fathers of the genre.
City Connection was released by Jaleco, or Jaleco, for the arcade.
In City Connection, you are a car, and you must drive from city to city. Now, in this world, cities apparently consist of multi-tiered layers.
City Connection is kind of Pac-Man-ish, like Crush Roller, but it plays more like Mappy, jumping from level to level, and the point is to kind of paint the levels with your car.
And the car is always moving, but you have the ability to kind of rotate around and turn and jump up onto the different platforms.
So making the car jump around and learning how to stop on a dime and turn and make the jumps up to the higher levels, make the straight jumps across, is where the strategy comes in.
There's enemy cars that you have to, I don't know, really avoid and sometimes bump out of your way.
And you can take out the cars, send them into a spin by throwing oil cans out. It's a very old-timey way of attacking a car.
Don't touch the cats. As amusing as that is, seeing the cats fly away with crazy music.
If you hit the cat, the German song The Flea Waltz plays, which in Japan is called Neko Hunjata, which means I stepped on the cat.
They must be intoxicated because they are standing right in the middle of traffic waving flags as if to say, come hit me. So if you hit them, you're the one who dies. The cats go flying. It's like you just drove straight into a bull moose.
It's like taking a field trip across America in your crazy jumping car.
And now the forgotten video games of 1985.
Pat here with the forgotten video games of 1985. B-Wings, 80's average vertical shooter. Doctor Who and the Mines of Terror by Micropower. This computer release has you as the Doctor trying to foil the evil plans of the Master. The Intellivision 3 system. This version is exactly the same as the original, but with a fresh coat of paint. And Donkey Kong Jr. Math by Nintendo. The only education title in the NES Black Box series, this game is almost as fun as counting on your fingers. And those were the forgotten video games of 1985. Just because you don't remember them doesn't mean they weren't fun.
John D. presents the Video Game Babes of 1985.
Johnny D here with the Video Game Babes of 1985. Carmen Sandiego, Elusive Criminal Babe. Princess Prin Prin from Ghosts and Goblins. The open-minded about what you can wear to a picnic babe. Princess Toadstool, the babe who's in another castle. Thyra from Gauntlet, 10th century Valkyrie babe. The lady from Hogan's Alley.
the don't point that thing at me babe. And finally, Rob, the robotic operating babe. And those were the video game babes of 1985. And I should know.
It's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom by Atari.
So essentially the idea behind Temple of Doom is that you run through the temple, you save the slave children, you grab the Sankara stones, and you escape the temple. Just like the movie.
You run around, you can whip them. You know, whip those thuggies, not the children. You don't want to do that.
And it had this really weird, like, 3D aspect to those levels, where you would go up the ladders and almost kind of like Congo Bongo scaling, if you will.
After you free the children, you then have to get the stones, the sacred stones, and then from that you go to the minecart sequence, where you're in the minecart, you avoid the other thuggies in the minecart, and you whip them.
Parts of the trail or the rails are broken, so you have to lean the cart to kind of maneuver around the broken spots and jump from rails to rails.
And then if you escape that, you go to the bridge portion, and you fight through the bridge, and you kill Molaram, and you redo the whole thing over in loops.
So one of the things that was pretty neat about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was the fact that it featured digitized voices. Harrison Ford's voice is actually in the game for Indiana Jones, which is pretty sweet.
Really good renditions of the music from the movie. Right now, the graphics are pretty good. It keeps sort of that sort of dark, spirit that permeates that movie. Yeah, it's fun.
No time for love, Dr. Jones.
The new fantasy adventure from Atari Games. The most fun a quarter can buy.
Gunsmoke. Gun.smoke.
Gun.smoke is another one of those vertically scrolling run-and-gun games.
But it's unique and different because you're in the old West. Yeehaw!
It's really unique in the sense that the shooting of the game was very different because you had 3 buttons, one to shoot forward, one to shoot left diagonal, and one to shoot right diagonal, which never really was done in any game I know of, and has been done since.
The theme of the game and the fast pace really set it apart and made it a lot of fun.
Man, was this game hard as hell. That was a hard game. I would only put like $1 in and get to the second level and give up.
For a quality game with a simple premise, a theme change is sometimes all it needs to feel fresh again, and that's what Gunsmoke did with the Western theme and the addition of the directional shooter.
Even though the title of this game bears a striking resemblance to the TV series Gunsmoke, it has no relation whatsoever. We know this because the game's called Gun.Smoke.
Hogan's Alley. You shot shit.
But to make it look like Nintendo was going to use these peripherals that were packed in with the original Nintendo, we do get another light gun game here. Hogan's Alley. That's another one that's a lot of fun.
You got your ducks flying around with Duck Hunt, and here you got basically, it's kind of like a police simulator.
You had various levels. You had the police shooting gallery, where shoot the bad guys, don't shoot the good guys. Of course, the good guys and the bad guys, some similar looks. Try to mess with you a little bit.
My favorite aspect of the game was the Road B, where you were going into a town. Because at least then you had to aim up and down, left and right, more than just the 3 targets.
You gotta watch out for the lady with the baby, or whatever. You don't want to hit them.
And then there is Mode C, which is where you have to keep 2 cans in the air for as long as you can.
Shoot the can.
And it was so cool that you were using this for this gun control, like this kind of way of moving items on the screen.
The targets were big, and they got to really work some good sprite art on there.
It was fast and it was accurate, so you could, and it timed you. So you actually got to see your shooting skills, and that was pretty cool.
It's a test of your aim, your reflexes, and your visual acuity. And I'm not sure what that means.
It means don't shoot the girl in paint, and don't shoot the nice looking businessman.
Nintendo trusted its peripheral enough to be able to, kind of make this a fun, different mechanic.
Hogan's Alley, no wrestling required.
So Fugatsu IR Kung Fu. Or is it EAR Kung Fu? I don't know the pronunciation.
Basically the grandfather of fighting games.
It's a Japanese game, but in Chinese, ER Kung Fu means 1-2 Kung Fu. Now that's a good name.
In IR Kung Fu spice things up a little bit. You're not just going against the same opponent over and over again who's in a different, colored gi. You get background changes, and all the characters have different weapons.
The player could, had more control of what the character did, whereas it's a game like Karate Champ, it was a little bit more structured.
Yeah, based around specific moves, realistic moves. This is
the whole jumping in the air and kind of controlling that aspect was introduced into this game.
The game itself, is pretty great. Surprisingly, Konami never really revisited it, but as far as an early fighting game goes, there is no two-player mode. It's pretty important.